Hey everyone, I've been working on my copy of Peter Pan for the past 6 months or so now. It's a fully illustrated edition of the original text and it's live on Kickstarter now. If you're interested to just take a look, then link is in the description down below and you can even secure your own copy if you're interested. Cheers. Hey everyone, today I wanted to talk about something that isn't really considered an artistic skill and yet is kind of integral to if you want to be an artist or illustrator or designer or anything of the sort. And that subject is, of course,
we just need money.
The reason why I wanted to talk about money today is quite simple. Earlier today, I went to buy a pack of ginger biscuits to dunk in my lovely cup of tea, and my card got declined, which was quite a funny experience, as that's not happened in a little while. But I knew that this was coming up this month, as I've been in between several freelance jobs, several situations that have had me going all over the show, financially lucrative on very different levels, from very meager pennies to some quite decent stuff. And I knew that I was due a dry spell during this month, and that at some point I would start to have to basically be counting pennies for a week or two. Just as a side note, this is not at all in any way a plea for any sort of financial aid. I'm doing more than fine. I have emergency funds for times like these, which are going to keep me more than safe. This is just to illustrate the point of today's video. So my ginger snap biscuits were eventually purchased by dipping into said emergency funds, and I returned home and continued to work on both these videos here and a few of my freelance jobs. Now, how did I end up in this situation, and could it have been avoided? And what else can we talk about today in regards to money? So hopefully, if you're like me, you're say at the beginning of your career, or maybe you're just getting going, or you're partway through your career, maybe you're at the end, but wherever you're at, money is going to have a unique relationship to you and the work that you do. You may have a very comfortable relationship with money. It may not be a big part of your art. Your art may be more of a leisurely activity that you just do kind of on the side. It's completely different for everyone. So I just want to sort of say anything I'm saying right now, do take it with a grain of salt, as the work that you do is more about you than it is about a specific way of doing things. So this is more about my experiences and what it is that I've been through that can help you maybe on your journey. So in the past 3 months, there is a word that has kept on coming up quite frequently, both personally and in relation to many different things that I've been working with. And this word is opportunity. And this relates directly to money and how it then is linked to your artwork and making money from your artwork. Now, an important piece of context for myself is in the past 3 months, I've graduated, I've started taking on freelance clients much more regularly, and I've also secured my first few jobs in what I would call a semi-creative industry, the main one being a part-time job at my university, basically just talking about and helping students with this very word, opportunities. So the irony of obviously being able to be employed for creative reasons and yet also struggling with money is, of course, the fact that this is probably the most stereotypical form of being a starving artist that you can be. The fact of Vincent van Gogh lived his entire life and only ever sold one painting comes to mind. This is kind of different to that. Obviously, we've come a long way since artists were seen as just purely wall decorators. We now have people that do things like YouTube, such as this, who get paid to do advertising or animation. There's a variety of different avenues that you can take your artwork down. But for me, I feel as though opportunity and how you view it is a universal concept that can be applied to any form of creative practice that you do. So a little more about the whole irony of the situation I find myself in. So coming out of university, I have a few friends that are a little older than me and have been through this journey before. They come out of university with what I've seen very good grades, and they're very confident they'll be able to jump straight into industry, and they realize that it's not that easy and everyone's kind of in the same boat. So I kind of had a bit of a warning flag when I was in this situation, and I knew that things were going to be difficult for a few months and I would need to be able to plan my opportunities well in advance. Now, this is something which I started doing much earlier in the year. I tried lining up some freelance jobs that I'd be able to take over the summer, any full work that I'd be able to do over the summer, and potentially just make life as easy as I could so that I could keep myself busy with any projects that, even if people weren't coming to me, I could be busy doing, going to directly my audience, such as this, or my recent illustrated copy of Peter Pan that I've been working on, which I can then go and take to conventions or to markets and sell, and other things like that. Now, this has been going great for a few months. I come out of university, pay my rent all fine, move house as I do so. I have some freelance jobs that I'm just finishing off. I get paid from those. Everything's looking good. I have savings, I have money for food, all looking great. As time goes on, I have my first big blow, which is a significant freelance client falls through, because who doesn't love bureaucracy? No biggie deal. I have another part-time job which I've applied to regarding the university, and I know that they'll be able to help me out. However, they turn around and say that as I'm only a part-timer, I'll be starting a few months later than everyone else, which is perfect, just what I need. So that's strike number 2. And then strike number 3 is, of course, the fact that a lot of my freelance work is just getting a lot slower during these months. I ask a colleague of mine who does freelance work full-time, more or less, and has made quite a successful career out of doing it. And he says, yep, these are the quietest months we've had in a long, long time. This can be due to AI, or it can be due to just the economy being a bit rough at the moment. But either way, there's an unexpected dip in the number of jobs that I'm basically getting. And so what do? I cave and I go and start waiting tables, because that's what artists do when we graduate. Now, the good thing is this is only a temporary thing. It's something which I'll be bouncing back from in the next month or two, as I do have jobs lined up. I have money coming through from these creative practices that I've been doing, and with a little bit of luck, I should be able to start turning around the work on the whole freelance front, which I've already started doing. So here's just a little bit about what experience I've gathered from this, and what it is that I'm going to be basically advising people on when I actually start getting paid to talk about this stuff. So opportunities are a funny thing. You can either go out and look for opportunities, or you can try and make your own. I would advise having a healthy relationship with both. It also kind of heavily depends on the kind of person you are. So something I've been working on is being more extroverted, in the sense that I don't care what people think about my public image, and just put myself out there. Even though I'm very much a people person, I don't exactly like being in the public eye. I don't like showing my face around the place. I don't even like talking that much, despite having a YouTube channel where I kind of do a lot of that. And so for me, what I found is that making my own opportunities where I could kind of be in control of my own output and things like that was something I was a lot more comfortable with, even though it was maybe a little bit more hard work, as I was having to go to people, not them come to me. So this is something you've got to consider to start with, and it's something which I've actually helped my university with in the past by sort of going to them and saying there's no easy avenue for people like myself who want to be able to create work, sell it on our own kind of platforms and through our own means, and basically be able to be a form of self-employed or freelancing, or whatever you'd like to call it. And so that's something which we essentially started doing, and that's something which helped me secure the kind of job that I've got there now. And through working in those fields, what I found was that really people who are at this stage where they're at university, they've got talent, they've got drive, they've got passion, maybe they're not fully rounded yet, but the main thing that was holding them back was just simply the kind of that initial spark to just sort of, or the permission maybe is the better word to say, you can go out and you can try and you can fail. And more so the safety net of knowing that once they probably would go and fail, that it wouldn't be the end of the world for them. Doing a commitment like this, whether it be committing to doing your first convention table, or taking your work to a market, putting it up in a store, is having basically the money to afford it in the first place, knowing that you may not see much of it come back anytime soon. And also just the platform to be able to know exactly what it is that you're doing in this sense. And this is essentially what we created at university, and it worked out very, very well. Especially kind of last year and the year before, where we went to places like Thought Bubble, we went and took over part of our local market hall, and we went to a bunch of different events like that, and took our work and saw, how does it all go? How does this all work? Can we learn from this? And this is a great example of an opportunity that we made for ourselves. And this is something which I've continued to do outside of university, off my own back. And it's something which, if you're like me and you're not exactly the most extroverted person, it's something I would heavily advise you to take a gamble on. Put aside a small portion of money that you can afford. Set yourself a little project of something that you can create. Anything that you need to know on how to make something, whether it be prints or a book, a zine or a zine, or 3D prints even, or even if you're at university and you want to experiment with some of the things that you can make, set aside a little bit of time and money and you will be able to do this. And even if you go and rent a market table which costs the equivalent of selling 20 of these things, go and do it and see how many you can sell. You will lose money on your first time is the likely outcome. This is something which you've got to just kind of get comfortable with. But the experience you will get from it is unlike anything else that I can tell. It's not something that can be taught at a school. It's not something that you'll get from being employed at a job. Being able to figure out that own initiative, being able to do this, go out and see for yourself, is something which will help you grow your own practice like you wouldn't believe. And so this is kind of the main form of opportunity that I like talking about. As coming from this, you will start to learn how to talk to clients, you'll start to learn the world of freelancing, and as long as you stay consistent with your work and people start to follow you for it, then it's the easiest way to actually build a reputation as an illustrator, outside of 3 years of employment somewhere, which is the other avenue. And that is, of course, having the opportunities available and there for you. So this kind of links to this. So after doing everything that I mentioned for a few years and being one of the kind of founders of this whole initiative with my uni, after leaving and basically saying to my lecturers, well, I'm going to be just freelancing locally for a few years, a few months, or just however long it takes, they sort of said, well, would you be interested in getting kind of paid a little bit of money to keep on doing what you have been doing, but dedicate more time to it? And I said, well, of course, this is ideal. And that's an opportunity which was just readily available, and I just jumped on it. I had to go against a few other people for the role, as there was other people doing similar initiatives, but luckily I was one of the people that was selected for it, which is ideal. Now, this is only a small scale one, of course. It's only, as I say, I'm at the beginning of my sort of artistic career, freshly graduated, but this instantly led to other opportunities. For instance, there is a studio quite nearly based on campus, which has now become readily available to me. I've been making use of it. There are other professionals that go in there, and this then opens up things like networking. A common thing that I see from so many people, and something I've been asking tons of recently myself, is I'm ready for freelance clients, how do I get them? Now, you can build up your reputation, like I mentioned previously, or the other obvious way is the phrase of it's not what you know, it's who you know. And luckily, when you start doing things like coordinating opportunities for people, just being in a space where professionals are working, you will bump into a lot of creative people and network quite naturally. It's not something which I'm very good at in general, but just kind of through exposure to the whole world of it, you will eventually start to get recognized for, oh, this is the kind of work you do, cool. Oh, I might know someone that would be interested in that kind of thing. And luckily, recently, after doing this for a good few months and seeing the clients I had already lined up fall through, I have now started to find that from just being in this space, I've built up a reputation and I've started to have clients come to me with some work, very slowly mind you, but it has started to happen. And this has kind of been the thing that's clicked with the whole great mystery for me of where do these freelance clients come from? Where are they all popping up from? I look at other people that share the studio space who have been doing this for years and years and years, very successful, and I'm asking them, going, how did you meet this really big client? There's a guy who sits to the left of me, he's a very nice guy. He works as a graphic designer for many local businesses, quite large ones, but he also has a couple of businesses he does work for a little broader than just local businesses. And I say to him, how do you find these guys? And they just go, well, we just ended up kind of crossing paths one day, and then one thing led to another, and they knew I was reliable, and from there you go. And that kind of opened my eyes to anyone can be doing this kind of work anywhere. We're in a small studio in the corner of a small rural city, and here we are just doing freelance work he was doing stuff for quite a very well reputable company, and it opened my eyes. So again, if you're more someone that has no issue with being able to go and present yourself and be quite open with here's me, here's what I do, then this might be a better opportunity for you. The ones that are there and readily available, but you can go and just present yourself as you are, and there you go. Now, A great example of one of the freelance clients that I had recently is actually a local business, a local gig venue to be specific. And this is a great example of kind of how the relationship with money can begin. Now, there are going to be many, many places and people out there on YouTube and on the internet that will have far more experience than me in things like conventions and in things like markets, freelancing. But what I can say is you'll be able to learn the fundamentals off of them in terms of what fair pricing is, how you value your time, how you measure your time, how you connect to people, build up reputation, make sure that you have integrity with the work that you do. The essentials for me on this part is obviously just know what your method is for pricing your own work. Typically what I do is I have an understanding of, I have a price range of, I will understand how reputable my client is. Are they a large company? Are they a small individual? And essentially I have a figure that I go between based on that. And that's an hourly figure based on how long I will know the work will take. For instance, something like a logo or a typical single one-off illustration, I know will take anywhere between sort of 5 to 10 hours, and then I budget that based on how large the client is. You want to know any sort of typical figures for this sort of thing. Recommended price range for people who are freshly graduated, for instance. If you're a professional in graphic design or illustration, you typically want to be between the £20 to £30 mark if you're in the UK. Obviously, if you're at the earlier stage of education, £20 per hour is quite a typical thing. Then once graduated, if you've got kudos at that point, then £30 is the recommended price point for any client who's got any sort of platform already. Any local business or someone that's looking for a serious commission, that's what I'd go off of. But I would never quote the hourly rate itself. I would figure everything out on my end of things, and then I would go, here's the overall sum. Typically, you would either round up by £5 or £10 or round down based off the sort of figure you're at, so it sounds like a nice agreeable figure. So what would be something like a logo or a single one-off illustration would end up at around, say, £100 to £150 depending on the project. Those are the kind of fundamentals, and then obviously you have things like email etiquette and things like that to make sure you're communicating correctly with your clients, but that's not what this is about. So what I more want to talk about is the value of a project itself and this idea of opportunity, linking it back to what we were just talking about. So I've done a number of projects where I've earned quite a fair amount of money from quite large-scale clients. This one that I'm talking about here is large-scale in its influence and footprint, but not large-scale in terms of its operation. So this local gig venue has a great amount of respect in the local city. However, it's not got tons of money. It basically promotes small-scale bands. It's a great night out for anyone that is from around here, and everyone knows it, and they've got a great online presence too, though they're a very small operation. And essentially I have someone who, as I was just saying, in the studio space which I share, comes to me and says, here's an opportunity, doesn't pay too much, it's a little bit different to what I would usually do, are you interested? And when I saw who it's for, I said, yeah, sure, it's okay if they don't pay too much, I'm fine with this being a one-off thing, and it will be great to have an established relationship with themselves. And this is a great example of kind of something in between the two of both making the opportunity and having the opportunity already available. So local gig venue wants a poster in a couple of different variations for this band, ideally with some illustrative elements, as most of the stuff that they usually get just ends up being AI generated stuff by the band, hence why the budget is not too high, as they don't typically have budget for making posters, but they would like something nicer than just the typical slop that AI puts out, or the equivalent of what someone can put together on Microsoft Paint or whatever program people use. So, client comes to me, says, small amount of money that we'll be able to offer this. I go, for this one job, totally fine. What can you do? I spend maybe a little bit more time on it than I should have done. We're talking maybe an extra hour or so. For the small amount of money, that's a significantly longer amount of time than I would recommend for small scale jobs, but it is what it is. I end up having a good amount of conversation with the client over email, and within a day or two, I see the poster go up onto their site, and it hits me. And this is another inspiration behind this video, aside from me being a starving artist, is me realizing that this is one of those briefs that made me realize that I was heading in the right direction. And one of the reasons why I'm not too worried about money at the moment, I see the work go up on their site, and some of the posters that have been done in the past for this venue have been done specifically for them by quite reputable local artists. And I researched into them, and I saw that a lot of these people have taken off pretty well. The ones that are actually hired to do these posters. And I look at the reputation, I look at the website, I look at the reaction on social media for all of this, and I go, this is where I need to be. This is the kind of client I want to be getting. I've got the right reputation for this. And obviously I wouldn't take a job like that again from them for that little money. I wouldn't want to make it normal that I work for that much. This was pretty much a one-time thing. But within a few days, they come back to me and they say, we're interested in another poster, let's talk, which is where I'm at with this client at the moment. But that opportunity that came from it and that relationship which I've now built, that poster is not just going to be seen by the client, it's going to be seen by loads of people who I can say, that's something I've done. This is the kind of opportunity that leads to more opportunities. And this is something that you can invest time and money into. And it's now a step up from where I was a few years ago in exactly the place that I was talking about just before, spending more money than I needed to on a convention table, sometimes losing money overall, selling stuff that I'd spent time into. And now I was getting work brought to me where, sure, maybe I could be earning more on it, but reputable work and work that I'm quite happy with. And so how I would recommend yourselves to approach this is look around and see what spaces aren't just saying that they want creative people, because you're going to have tons of people saying we want creative people. But what situations can you find that are going to give you the right opportunities? Don't go for an internship that's going to leech off you for 6 months and then fire you. Look for somewhere which is accessible to you, where you're going to be talking and seeing people that are where you want to be, that you're going to be able to learn from, that are going to be beneficial for you to be around and you beneficial to themselves. And put yourself in that position. The opportunities will come to you. And I know I'm saying this, obviously, having just said that financially I'm not in great shape at the moment, but I also want to raise the point that I'm not worried about that. I've come from a very financially savvy background. Most of my family are actually in business orientated jobs, not creative orientated jobs. And so there is no end to the amount of financial advice I get. So in some ways I should be kind of pulling my hair out at the moment, but at the same time I've not felt this relaxed about the work it is that I'm doing in a very, very long time. And I think there's a reason for that. I have faith in myself. I know that I have the skills. I've just been lacking in, through education, the opportunity to put them to use. And I feel as though finally now realizing the things that have been missing from my process and the opportunities to be able to put myself out there, they're finally coming my way. And though I've come to the end of that financial roller coaster that you end up being on as a student, where money just kind of comes from places that you don't expect, I know that I'm starting a journey of a very different kind of situation, and it's going to be a much more, hopefully, long-lasting and interesting one. But I know that with the right kind of support, that I'll be fine, and that any of you who are in a similar situation will be fine. And that's why I wanted to share some of this today. And I hope that if anyone out there is in a similar situation where you're at the beginning of your career, you know you have the talent, and you're just looking for that chance to put it to use, I hope that some of this advice can help. Money is something which is kind of often seen as this whole weird mercurial thing that artists have to deal with. You know, we're not business people. We think with a very specific part of our brain that doesn't overlap that much into the whole business and opportunities kind of side of the world. But it's not something which we need to be afraid of either. And I'd say, remember that you are your biggest asset. That's a great piece of advice that I got recently from this very studio space which I've been going to. And to not be afraid to keep putting yourself out there, and not be afraid of the rejection you might find, as rejection is a byproduct of opportunity. You know, it's something where you'll have to encounter one to encounter the other. So yeah, I hope that's useful for yourselves. If you've learned anything today, then please consider obviously supporting the channel, just liking, subscribing, whatever's good. This channel's kind of just been a sort of side project of mine recently. It's been, whilst I've been working on a number of different things, as I've been talking about, I just have enjoyed recording the process any way that I can. So the fact that people are seemingly enjoying it is really nice to see. It really actually does make a lot of a difference in terms of the satisfaction of the work. So yeah, just thank you all for that. Thank you for the support. There'll be some more videos coming out very soon. I'll be doing a special on the Peter Pan project next week, as the Kickstarter page for that is coming to a close pretty soon. And I wanted to kind of go into a little bit about how that whole journey has been for myself. That's been a whole roller coaster in its own right. And so, yeah, thank you all for watching. There'll be another video out pretty soon. And I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.